Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Sustainable Espresso, a 10-minute to 15-minute shot of sustainability-related information that will occur bi-weekly. The purpose of this is to provide you with key information about sustainability each time and new trends and novelties. And today we will dive into emissions reporting. So let's begin, Maya. Can you tell us what is emissions reporting in general?
Yes, hello and good morning. Today we'll talk about emissions reporting, which involves the documentation and communication of greenhouse gas emissions released into the atmosphere by the organizations, facilities, and entities. This process includes quantifying the emissions from various sources, such as energy consumption, industrial processes, transportation, waste management, and also reporting this data in some standardized formats. By transparent reporting, organizations can also assess their carbon footprint, identify areas for improvements, and contribute to global efforts to fight climate change. For better processes and understanding, we divide emissions into 3 different scopes.
Okay, and what are these different scopes of emissions?
Yes, we actually know scope 1, 2, and 3 of emissions. These are different categories used in emissions reporting to categorize various sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Scope 1 emissions consist of direct greenhouse gas emissions produced by sources that are owned and controlled by the reporting entity. This is really important. These include emissions from combustion processes in facilities, company-owned vehicles, and also industrial processes. For specific example, Scope 1 emissions may result from burning fossil fuels, such as natural gas for heating, emissions from using fuels in company-owned cars, or emissions resulting from chemical reactions during some industrial processes. This can be cement production or steel manufacturing that release CO2 directly in the atmosphere.
Okay, great, Maya, thank you. What about scope 2?
Scope 2 emissions represent indirect emissions associated with consumption of purchased electricity, heat, or steam by the reporting entity. These emissions result from the generation of purchased energy offsite. For instance, Scope 2 emissions are emissions from the production of the cooling energy that the company purchased to cool its building or manufacturing processes, also data centers. Here we also have emissions associated with steam that is produced offsite and purchased by a company for use in the industrial processes, heating, or some other applications.
Interesting, but as far as I know, scope 3 is the most complex one and the hardest to comply with. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, that's true. Scope 3 emissions are the most complex because they include indirect emissions along the full value chain of the reporting entity. This including both upstream and downstream sources. These emissions are often the most substantial and challenging to measure, but as they involve activities such as business travel, supply chain emissions, employee commuting, and waste disposal. Scope 3 emissions can account for a quite significant portion of a company's total emission footprint, so they can be ignored. Specific example of scope 3 are emissions from the disposal or recycling of products once they have been reached the end of their usable life, or emissions from the production and transportation of goods and services that a company buys, including raw materials or office supplies.
This sounds complex. What would be the motivation for companies to start measuring emissions for different scopes?
Measuring and managing scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions is crucial for organizations because of operational efficiency, cost savings, and also regulatory compliance. Understanding different scopes of emissions can help companies identify key areas for reduction strategies, engaging with suppliers to improve overall environmental performance, and to work towards achieving these carbon neutrality goals.
A lot of information for today, at least on a high level. So if you would like to know more about sustainability related topics, you can follow us, or even you can contact us and we can see maybe how can we support you. And thank you for your attention for today.
Thank you.